Ever get that feeling like you're working really hard, maybe seeing some progress, but still feel like you're missing something,
Now,
financially?
yeah, like there's a key piece of the puzzle you haven't quite found yet.
Exactly. That's what we're digging into today.
We're taking a deep dive into the ideas in a very influential book, one that's prompted a lot of people to rethink their approach to money. Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Right.
Now, this isn't about some secret loophole to instant wealth or anything.
No.
Instead, we're going to pull out the core philosophies, the contrasting ways of looking at money and building wealth that the book explores. See what insights we can extract for you.
Yeah, exactly. The book centers on the experiences of this young boy learning about money from two very different father figures. One, his own dad, the poor dad, who was, highly educated but struggled financially.
hmm
And the other, the rich dad, his best friend's father, who was a financially successful entrepreneur with a completely different mindset.
And our goal here isn't just to, summarize the book chapter by chapter.
No, definitely not a dry summary.
Right. It's to really unpack those contrasting viewpoints and, crucially, to pinpoint the actionable ideas. No matter where you are on your financial journey or how much you already know, these different perspectives offer some, valuable food for thought.
Okay, so let's jump right in. It kind of starts with this story when the author, Robert Kiyosaki, was 9. He and his friend Mike weren't invited to a beach house with the richer kids.
Oof. Yeah, that childhood awareness of financial differences can really sting, can it? The book describes it as quite impactful.
Totally. And then you see the contrast in how the two dads reacted. The poor dad, his actual father, gave that well-meaning but kind of vague advice. Use your head if you want to be rich.
Which, yeah, for a 9-year-old, what does that even mean?
Right, not exactly a clear roadmap. But then came the suggestion to talk to Mike's dad.
And that's the turning point, really, where a completely different kind of financial education starts. It highlights how different people just operate on totally different levels of financial understanding.
And that seeking out that knowledge can be, well, life-changing.
Absolutely. And what happens next is, honestly, kind of hilarious, but also shows their initiative.
Oh yeah, the first business venture, collecting old toothpaste tubes.
Because back then they contained lead.
I know, and they set up this whole mini factory, right? With a grill and milk cartons, plaster of Paris.
Like a little smelting operation in the backyard. You've got to admire the ingenuity, even if...
Even if the whole plan was basically counterfeiting nickels.
Exactly. Which they obviously didn't realize at first. It's funny.
And the poor dad's friend apparently joked they were developing a natural talent.
Huh. Yeah, ironic. But even when that plan, inevitably failed, the poor dad did share something important.
What was that?
He told them, "You're only poor if you give up."
Uh, okay. So, a lesson in resilience, even then. Don't let failure stop you.
It's a crucial point, yeah. Different from Rich Dad's later perspective on failure, maybe, but still valuable. And then comes the big meeting, the introduction to Mike's dad, the rich dad.
Right, and the author's first impression is interesting. Mike's home was simple, small, and tidy. Maybe not what he expected. And Mike's dad is already working, meeting with employees.
Yeah, the book paints him as someone actively building things, not just relaxing after a 9 to 5. He's in the thick of it.
And his offer to the boys is just so direct.
Super direct. You work for me, I'll teach you. You don't work for me, I won't teach you.
Like, take it or leave it, no hand-holding.
It's a lesson in itself, right? About decisiveness, taking action.
And the first job. Wow. Dusting cans in one of his stores.
For 10 cents an hour.
10 cents. After their grand plan to mint their own money, that must have felt like a huge step down.
Oh, for sure. And it was intentionally unglamorous. That boring task was the setup for the first real lesson.
Because predictably, he gets frustrated pretty fast.
Yep, low pay, mind-numbing work.
Yeah.
Like designed to test that initial burst of enthusiasm.
And after, 4 weeks, he's ready to bail, tells Mike he's done.
School's boring, now my Saturdays are boring too. All for 30 cents. You could just hear the 9-year-old angst.
But Mike just smiles.
Because Rich Dad knew this would happen, he totally anticipated it.
That's the key part of his method, isn't it? Letting experience, even the frustrating parts, be the teacher.
Exactly. Now, think about how the poor dad might have reacted.
Oh, totally different. He probably would have been outraged, right? Demanded a raise for his son, maybe talked about child labor laws.
Yeah, focused on the immediate unfairness, the low wage, the employee perspective. trying to get in better terms within that system.
But Rich Dad had a completely different angle planned for that Saturday morning meeting.
Right. The author goes in, all fired up, ready to demand more money, probably channeling his own dad's thinking.
And Rich Dad just cuts him off at the knees almost.
Yeah, with that line, "Not bad. In less than a month, you sound like most of my employees."
Ouch. Talk about a pattern interrupt. It completely deflates the anger.
And sets the stage perfectly for that huge central idea.
Yeah.
The rich don't work for money.
Explain that a bit more. How did he frame it?
Well, he deliberately paid them almost nothing to make them feel what it's like working just for a wage, to feel that trap of always wanting more but feeling powerless.
He compared their tiny pay for hours of work to how employees feel looking at their paychecks after taxes and deductions.
Exactly, that feeling of, where did it all go? He pointed out how taxes take a big chunk right off the top, even from their tiny earnings. It's a first glimpse into how the system works differently for different people.
So it wasn't about the 10 cents, it was about the feeling.
Precisely. And instead of just complaining or quitting, which is what most people do, Rich Dad challenged him again, use your head.
Which led to them agreeing to work for free.
For free, but with the promise of learning. It's that fundamental shift. Stop chasing the paycheck. Start chasing the knowledge. Work to learn, not just to earn.
Okay, so that focus shifts from just getting paid to actually understanding finance. And this leads into avoiding the trap he talks about.
Yeah, the trap driven by two emotions, fear and desire. Rich Dad contrasts his approach with the poor dad's emphasis on job security, which often comes from fear.
Fear of not having enough money, right?
Right. Fear of bills, of being broke. And the poor dad's solution is a safe, secure job. Rich Dad's solution is learning how money actually works, so you're not controlled by that fear.
There's that scene where they're talking, looking at people working hard in the park.
Yeah, it's a pivotal conversation. He's showing them, look, there are people trading their time directly for money, maybe stuck in that cycle, but there's another way, a path to financial freedom.
And then he dangles the bait, offers them raises.
Big ones.
Right.
25 cents, then $1, $2, up to $5 an hour.
Which back then, for a kid, that must have seemed like a fortune. The author admits his heart started pounding.
Of course. And that was Rich Dad's test. He was showing them in real time how desire, the wanting more money, can hijack your thinking and keep you running on that treadmill.
The donkey chasing the carrot analogy.
Exactly. Always reaching for the reward dangled in front of you without stopping to think if there's a better way altogether. Don't let fear or greed make your decisions for you.
And he connects this to ignorance, like not understanding money makes the fear and desire stronger.
Precisely. If you don't understand how money works, you're more likely to be driven by the fear of not having it or the blind desire for more of it. The poor dad advises tackling the fear with job security. The rich dad advises tackling the ignorance with financial education.
Which brings us squarely to financial literacy itself, the core of his teaching.
And that fundamental principle, it's not how much money you make.
It's how much money you keep. Yeah, that's a big one.
It really shifts the focus. And the book introduces that critical distinction, assets versus liabilities, and how they impact your cash flow.
Can you break that down simply? Assets put money in your pocket, liabilities take money out.
That's the essence of it, according to Rich Dad. And his definition of wealth isn't about a dollar amount. It's about time. How many days forward could you survive if you stopped working today? Your wealth is measured by how long your assets can sustain you.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's not just about having stuff, it's about having stuff that generates income.
Exactly. And this is where he contrasts the habits. The rich focus on acquiring income-producing assets. The poor mainly have expenses. And the middle class.
They buy liabilities they think are assets.
Often, yeah. Like the big house with the big mortgage, the fancy car with payments, things that consistently drain cash rather than generate it.
Which leads right into the next big idea, mind your own business.
Right. And this doesn't mean literally starting a company necessarily. It means focusing on building your asset column.
So your job pays the bills, that's your profession, but your business is your collection of assets that make money for you.
That's the idea. Your job relates to your income statement, money coming in, money going out. Minding your own business means actively building that asset column, separate from your job.
And once money goes into that asset column,
It becomes your employee. Working for you till 147, generating more money. That's the goal. Create a system where your money works harder than you do.
okay. And part of making that system work efficiently involves understanding things like corporations and taxes, right? Rich Dad had some strong views there.
He did. He famously called Robin Hood a crook, which is provocative, but his point was about understanding the rules of the game, particularly taxes. He emphasized using legal structures like corporations strategically.
What's the main advantage he highlighted?
A big one is how corporations handle expenses. Yeah. Generally, a corporation can earn money, spend money on legitimate business expenses, and then pay taxes on what's left.
Whereas an employee earns money, pays taxes first,
Ah.
and then spends what's left.
Exactly. It's a difference in the flow of money and when taxes are applied. It's about financial intelligence, understanding these structures, so you're not just passively letting taxes erode your wealth. Knowledge is power in the financial realm.
It's not about dodging taxes illegally, but understanding the rules the wealthy often use.
Precisely. Understanding the incentives and structures within the tax code. And this circles back to that earlier point. Work to learn, don't just work for money.
Right, like that story about the reporter with the master's degree.
Yeah, who was offended when Robert suggested she learn sales to help her become a best-selling author.
Because she saw sales as somehow beneath her, even though it was a crucial skill for what she wanted to achieve.
It perfectly illustrates that concept the book pushes. You might be just one skill away from great wealth. Sometimes the missing piece isn't more academic knowledge in your field, but a practical skill like sales, marketing, communication, or management.
Like Robert himself going to work at Xerox.
Exactly. Not because he wanted a career in copier sales, but specifically to overcome his shyness and fear of rejection to learn how to sell. He saw it as investing in his own skill set, his own asset column.
Okay, so we've got the concepts, but the book also talks about the internal stuff, the mindset obstacles.
Oh yeah, huge emphasis on that. Fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, and arrogance.
Fear of losing money is probably universal, isn't it?
Absolutely. Rich Dad argues everyone feels it, even the wealthy. The difference is how you handle it. Do you let it paralyze you, or do you manage it, maybe by starting small or educating yourself? I think a lot of us can relate to that knot in our stomach when considering investments.
So what's a practical first step someone feeling that fear could take, even a small one?
Well, a small step might just be educating yourself more on whatever investment or financial move you're scared of. Often, fear really just stems from the unknown, right? So learn more. Start really small, maybe with a simulator account or a tiny investment, just to get comfortable with the process. Don't feel pressured into big leaps. And remember, Rich Dad's rhyme. If you hate risk and worry, start early.
Good advice. And cynicism. That's like shooting down ideas before even exploring them.
Yeah, the I can't do that because mentality, like dismissing real estate because I don't want to fix toilets. It's focusing only on the downside without analyzing the potential reward or finding solutions like hiring a property manager.
And laziness, he reframes that, doesn't he?
He talks about a little greed being healthy. Not destructive greed, but the ambition to want a better life. It prompts you to ask, how can I afford it? Instead of just saying, I can't afford it, it sparks problem solving.
That's a powerful shift from passive acceptance to active seeking, then bad habits.
Like the habit of paying everyone else before yourself. Rich Dad hammered on the importance of paying yourself first, meaning allocating money to your asset column before paying bills, even if it feels uncomfortable. It forces discipline.
That takes serious self-control.
It does. And finally, arrogance. Thinking you know it all.
Which closes you off to learning new things, right? Especially in finance, where things change.
Exactly. You have to be willing to admit what you don't know and seek out expertise.
Okay, so the book lays out these concepts and obstacles. Does it give concrete starting steps?
It does. It outlines 10 steps, kind of a practical framework. Things like finding a really strong why, a motivation bigger than the challenges, making conscious daily choices that align with building wealth versus staying poor or middle class.
Choosing your friends carefully is in there too, isn't it? Learning from different people.
Yeah, learn from people who have money, and maybe even learn what not to do from those who struggle. Also, master one formula, like a specific investment strategy, then learn a new one. Keep learning quickly.
And the pay yourself first discipline we mentioned.
Absolutely. Paying your advisors, well, valuing good advice. Being an Indian giver in the sense of getting a return on your investments. Using cash flow from assets to buy luxuries, not debt.
Having heroes or mentors to model.
And finally, the idea that when you teach something, you learn it more deeply yourself. So teach and you shall receive.
And one last piece was the different types of income.
Right. Earned income from a job. Portfolio income from paper assets like stocks and bonds. And passive income, typically from real estate or businesses you don't actively manage day to day.
The poor dad focused mostly on earned income.
Yes. And the rich dad emphasized converting that earned income into portfolio and especially passive income streams.
Why the emphasis there?
Partly because of the potential for lower tax rates on certain types of portfolio and passive income compared to earned income, but mostly because it's the path to having your money work for you, creating that financial freedom where you're not solely reliant on trading your time for money.
Okay, so if we boil it all down, the absolute core message from Rich Dad, Poor Dad is what?
It's fundamentally about shifting your mindset, moving from the employee mentality of working for money to the investor or entrepreneur mentality of having money work for you.
Through financial literacy, understanding assets versus liabilities, and consistently building that asset column.
Exactly. It's about taking control of your financial education and your financial future.
So, for you listening, the actionable takeaway here isn't necessarily to adopt every single idea wholesale, right?
No, not at all. It's about identifying maybe one or two concepts that really struck a chord with you today. Was it the asset liability distinction, the work to learn idea, the need to overcome a specific fear,
Take that one thing that resonated.
and just explore it a bit further? Maybe that means picking up the book itself, maybe just doing some online research on that specific topic, like passive income strategies or understanding cash flow. Just take one step based on what stood out.
And maybe as a final thought to leave you with, are you currently on that financial treadmill, mostly focused on that next paycheck, like the author was when he started?
This deep dive really encourages that critical look at our own thinking. How much power does your own financial intelligence currently have in your life? Because the book ultimately suggests that being rich, poor, or middle class isn't just about circumstance.
It's about the continuous daily choices you make regarding money, knowledge, and what you prioritize. So what kind of financial future are you actively building starting today?